I'm going to pick up where I left off yesterday. Winning matters, and the Los Angeles Lakers just won their 8th game in a row. Jay Skapanac's going to be here in about 60 seconds to apologize to LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm going to double and triple down on the fact the Lakers are getting out of the first round. The Lakers probably will get out of the second round. The Lakers are for real. Luka Dončić had 60 points last night in Miami. The Lakers win their 8th game in a row. LeBron James has a triple-double last night. I believe 19 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists. Luka, I believe, in their 8-game winning streak, averaging 41 points a game. The Lakers are for real. And I'm going to actually celebrate it. I am not a LeBron James homer. Everybody knows I'm not a LeBron James homer. But when LeBron does something right, I am going to celebrate and applaud it. The thing I loved about last night's game in Miami is LeBron celebrating, rooting for, participating in. Like, Luka was stuck on 59 points. They wanted to get Luka to the free throw line so that he could get 60 points. It happened when he got his 60th point because he missed the front end of the first free throw. When he finally got his 60th point, who had the biggest smile on their face? Who threw their hands up in celebration? It was LeBron James. You can hate LeBron James all you want, and I was right there with you. When LeBron is wrong, I love to criticize LeBron. When LeBron James is right, I love to celebrate LeBron James. And right now, LeBron James and the Lakers are doing a lot of things right. LeBron James has truly, fully accepted the role. And I'm sure it was difficult. And I'm sure it's against all of his instincts and what he wanted to do. But he was forced into a corner. Basically, like, what are you going to do, LeBron? Ain't nobody trading for your old butt. And the Lakers, if you play this diminished role, you will get credit for playing this diminished role. When this thing was over, the announcers, and I believe they were Miami-based announcers, they were even acknowledging and celebrating LeBron for celebrating Luka Dončić. We can thank LeBron James, and he has been a selfish player. He has been a person that has created chaos within an organization. He has been a guy that has undermined teammates and made everybody defer to his personality, his will, his style of play. But here at the end, given no choice other than making a complete imbecile of himself, LeBron is choosing and doing the right things, taking this third wheel role, and the Lakers are a legitimate playoff threat. Can they beat Oklahoma City? I don't know, but Oklahoma City's not had the kind of year that Oklahoma City was supposed to have. If the get banged up, right injuries, whatever, get caught sleeping, Luka Dončić is the greatest scorer in the NBA going right now. He's damn near making a MVP run here at the end of the season. He should be in that conversation, particularly if the Lakers finish the season on some kind of incredible winning streak. Yeah, put Luka in the MVP race. You damn Skippy. Skap, I feel real good about the bet I made with you yesterday. I'm going to give Skap $2,000 if the Lakers don't make it out of the first round of the playoffs. And if the Lakers make it out of the second round of the playoffs, Skap's going to send me $1,000. Skap, are you ready to apologize to LeBron James?
I mean, Jason, I'm not going to give you much pushback with what you're saying in your lead in there. I mean, this reminds me a lot. Look, I like to kind of compare things to movies, basically, because as we know from our conversation a few days ago, I love movies, like maybe more than sports. This reminds me, I'm sure you're aware of the film Major League, the original one.
Yeah.
Where, you know, like the owner has this diabolical plan to derail the team. And they all come together, and Roger Dorn is like the aging all-star that's like just clinging on for one final year before he gets into broadcasting. And he's actually called out by the leader of that team. And they cut to a montage of the team coming together. And Dorn's like throwing himself into front of balls to stop like ball grounders and stuff, and they're all coming together, and Dorn's helping with it. That's kind of LeBron James is Roger Dorn right now after he came back from that, multiple game hiatus. The turning point, Jason, was when he sat out recently for like 4 games, and the Lakers played 3 really good teams and annihilated them without LeBron. So then he comes back, and like you said, he has no choice but to do this. My major takeaway from last night's game really is Luka freaking Dončić is on one right now. I mean, like you said it, he is the best scorer in the NBA right now. He's one of the best scorers ever, Jason. He is the 3rd highest scoring average in NBA history, behind only Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain. He's 2nd in playoff scoring per game, behind only Jordan. Jason, there are 2 players in the history of recorded mankind who have played basketball that have averaged 30 points per game in a playoff career. Michael Jordan and Luka Dončić. That's the list. So, look, I have the utmost respect for Luka, but I will maintain that the team building on this roster just is still inherently flawed. They are doing a great job of masking it right now. But I'm telling you, the kind of defense they're playing and that they've been deploying for the last 11 or 12 games is similar to what they did in stretches last year. They're in a lot of zone. They're doing a lot of switching. It makes you susceptible to get beat up on the offensive glass, which is exactly what happened to them against Minnesota last year in the first round of the playoffs. And ultimately, like, look, if the matchups fall their way, Jason, in the playoffs, maybe they can go. Maybe they can make a run. But unfortunately, in the Western Conference, there are a lot of big teams with a lot of big personnel that it's going to be hard for LA to keep them off of the glass when they're playing this kind of defense. And quite frankly, they don't have an opportunity to play it any other way. They're small. Like they are not only beholden to LeBron James to maintain this unselfish level of play that he has been deploying the last several games, but also they are now beholden to DeAndre Ayton to remain like mentally checked into these games, because if they're not playing him, they're really going to be suffering on the glass. So I still think it's an uphill battle. As great as the Lakers have looked now the last 12 games, I still will maintain that I'm feeling pretty good about our bet.
LeBron, 15, 16 rebounds last night. He's helping out on the boards. He still can be a force as a rebounder. He's still an incredibly big, strong body. And by the time you get situated and into a playoff series, I think LeBron's going to be an effective rebounder. I like where he's hunting baskets now, close to the rim. We were talking during the game, and you were kind of mocking him. Hey, he's only shooting 2-footers. I like it. So what? Last I checked, those still count as 2 points. It's not like LeBron's just out on the perimeter in Luka's way. He's where he's supposed to be, and he's doing what he's supposed to do, and I don't think he's faking it. I think he's enjoying it. And what's not to enjoy? While they're winning, he's being celebrated. He had a triple-double last night. This isn't stat padding. This is like real rebounding, real scoring that matters. Bam Adebayo. Miami's not the worst team in the East. It's a competitive team. These are real minutes, real stats, real wins that actually mean something. I saw other people are starting to hop on my bandwagon a little bit. Not on my bandwagon, but just saying similar things like, Charles Barkley, I got some bad news for you, man. The Lakers are a real story. And yes, I know that, we're right at the beginning of the NCAA tournament, and the NCAA tournament got off to a hell of a start with High Point knocking off Wisconsin, and interesting game with Duke almost getting upset by Siena. I don't understand how BYU lost to Texas. Dybantsa is, to me, the best player in this draft. But overshadowed by all of that, and that's why I'm starting there, is what the Lakers are doing and what LeBron James is doing. I think it's, other than Miami of Ohio,
Jason.
and it's the best story in sports. But I do want to transition a little bit, Scap, because hold for 1 second. I got a great show planned for us. JB's going to end the show for us, as he does every Friday. We'll see what's popping with JB. But before we get to JB, we'll talk with Bucky Brooks about some NFL news. We'll do with Bucky shortly after me and Scap are done talking here basketball. We're going to have a long discussion with Virgil, Shemeka, Dre Baldwin, and who am I forgetting? Steve Kim, about my interview with Cam Newton. We're going to reflect on that, review that, give you some insight into my interview with Cam Newton. Jam-packed show, but I had to start with basketball. I had to start with LeBron and the Lakers. I want to mix in a little NCAA tournament stuff here. Duke almost got upset. And Scap, I think Hadley told me we kind of disagree here. I was not impressed with Cameron Boozer. To me, and again, I've seen some other games he's played in, but just bits and pieces. This is my first real long look at Cameron Boozer. I didn't see enough athleticism to me, and maybe I don't know what I'm looking at, but I didn't. I thought he got away with some traveling on the inside. He didn't look skilled to me as a big man, and I know previously and early in the year he has. Now Dybantsa, on the other hand, this dude put up 35 points against Texas. I'm sorry they lost, because I think this is an exciting player. I think it's, he's not quite as long as Kevin Durant, but he kind of reminds me of Kevin Durant. I come away from day one of the NCAA tournament more impressed with Dybantsa, who exited the tournament, than Cameron Boozer, who survived a 1 versus 16 battle against Siena. Your thoughts on day one, your thoughts on Dybantsa and Cameron Boozer.
Yeah, Dybantsa clearly has distanced himself. He is, to me, the presumptive number one overall pick now at this point in the NBA draft. I would be shocked if he isn't going to be the number one overall pick. He clearly, to me, I agree with you, is heads and shoulders above Peterson. Obviously, we haven't seen him play yet for Kansas in this tournament. And Cameron Boozer, he did not look great today. But I was impressed with him and his brother. Basically, the only two guys that showed up today. I think I was shocked at how bad Duke looked. I think really, I don't know how bad I would say Cam looked individually, or how bad Duke looked, like a team that had nothing else. So Siena could just really key in on Cameron Boozer. I was stunned. Like, if you didn't know anything about college basketball, if you didn't understand what the little 1 and the little 16 meant or whatever, and you just started watching that game, you would think Siena was the better team, the more talented team. They were dominating that game. The fact that Duke got lucky in that game, like they
ran out of gas. Siena
they made one substitution all game. It did not come till 10 seconds left. So, I mean, they played all 5 of their starters basically the entire game. They just ran out of gas. I think they scored 4 points in the last 8 minutes, all for Duke to squeeze out a 6-point win as a 30-point favorite and the number one overall seed in this bracket, the presumptive betting odds-on favorite to win this whole thing. I didn't see any of that today. And Duke is in a murderous bracket. They're in easily the hardest bracket. They have the best 2 seed, I think, in UConn. St. John's is in there as a 5 seed, I think, somehow. Kansas is in there. UCLA, I don't know how Duke is going to have any aspirations of clearing that bracket after what I saw today out of them and the Boozer boys, for that matter. But yes, Dybantsa, it is a shame that we don't get to see more of him, and there's not going to be any kind of magical run like some of the other players of his ilk have had throughout this tournament. So I am saddened by that. And the other thing I have to mention, one quick thing here, is High Point. That game was marvelous. That game with Wisconsin. Like, in some of these games, Jason, they bog down somewhat. So even if there's some intrigue at the end, like a buzzer beater, it's kind of slow, methodical games. The guys are missing shots by and large. That wasn't what happened in that game. There was high-level shot making by both teams down the stretch. Both teams were seemingly scoring like every time down the floor for the last 4 or 5 minutes. That to me was the game of the day, even though Duke obviously had the most intrigue because they were a 1 seed on the ropes.
Scap, I got a lot to do. I got to keep it moving. Thank you for helping me start out by talking about basketball, and it seems like I'm kind of winning you over to Team LeBron James, and I've kind of won myself over. I'm kind of shocked. I think you're known as a LeBron hater, but I'm probably known as the LeBron ultimate hater. But when LeBron's right, he's right, and I'd love to see anybody adapt and change to a new environment, new situation, and make the best of it. And that's what LeBron James seems to be doing. Scap, I'm going to let you go. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Hope your NCAA picks are doing better than mine because I'm off to a terrible start. All right, we got a lot to cover today. Scap, thank you. Great job. If you're listening over Apple or Spotify, hit that 5-star rating. It's important. Help us fight the algorithm. We're getting killed right now. We're getting killed. There's some forces working against us. Make sure if you think, hey, I'm a subscriber to Whitlock's channel, double check. I believe you've been unsubscribed. They've stolen about 500 of our subscribers over the last week to 10 days. Look, we're in a tsunami. We talk about things we're not supposed to talk about on this channel. They are shadow banning us. Help us fight back. Make sure you're still a subscriber to our YouTube channel. Double check. Hit that resubscribe. Hit the likes. Hit the comments. Help us fight the algorithms. The other thing you can do, if you really want to get on board with me and everything that I love and promote here, become a subscriber, become a supporter, a donor to Preborn. Preborn is the organization that supports our worldview that life begins at conception. Preborn provides expectant mothers who are considering abortion. They provide them an ultrasound that introduces that baby's heartbeat and an image of that baby to the mother while the baby's in the womb. When the mother sees that baby, when the mother hears that heartbeat, she's now twice as likely to choose life. And that's when Preborn steps in and steps up, supports that woman and child for up to 2 years, of that child's life. Preborn is awesome. They save about 80,000 babies a year. You be a part of that solution. You be a part of that saving babies' lives. Put a smile on your own face. Put a smile on God's face by donating to Preborn and supporting life. There's 2 ways to do it. You can dial pound 250 on your smartphone and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby. Or give the way that I prefer to give, preborn.com/fearless. That's preborn.com/fearless. When you do, send me an email at fearlessblazeshow@gmail.com. Let me know you supported Preborn. It puts a smile on my face. I love it. I love you. I love Preborn. Thank you so much. When we come back, Bucky Brooks will talk some football. Next.
They stick up for their guys. Stick up for their people. That's the nature of business in general, and it's definitely the nature of coaching business. If you're not my friend, you're my foe. And so if you don't have my back, you're out. And coaches stick up for coaches, especially ones in their family, and this one technically is blood. And it's been done for years, right? How many times we heard Vital talk about how great Duke is when Duke, oh, let me tell you about Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams and Tom Izzo, right? Like, wait, does he favor Duke? Right? I mean, everybody who works at ESPN has some sort of attachment with Duke. Jay does. Jay Williams does. Duke Vital does, right? So all of a sudden now we're going to be critical of Bruce? And here's the other thing. This is the first time since this guy right here was on the selection show that anybody talked about anything said on the selection show. It's a gigantic win. And the more we try and make Bruce apologize and act like having a strong opinion from a guy who, by the way, has taken Auburn to 2 Final Fours. Like, the guy has forgotten more about college basketball than any of these idiots on social media will ever know. Okay, but the more we act like he's doing something wrong, the less likely we are in the future to have people speak their mind. That's just the reality of it.
religion, no regrets in our decisions. We all wanna go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
As promised, we'll talk some football as the NFL turns with Bucky Brooks. But before we turn to football, I got to pass on my condolences to Bucky Brooks. Last night, the North Carolina Tar Heels got upset by Virginia Commonwealth, and surprisingly, Bucky has a smile on his face. But I know last night when that was going on, he was dang near in tears. He looked like me watching Ball State blow a game. Bucky, what happened to your Tar Heels?
My Tar Heels melted down in the second half, had a 19-point lead, gave it away. It's been the theme of the season. Turnovers, missed free throws, faulty execution, and now there are going to be some consequences to the actions, as always.
Consequences to the act, does that just mean heat on Hubert Davis, or will there be calls for we need to do something different?
No, there have already been calls for needing to do something different because when you think about the last few years, North Carolina has missed the tournament a few times. North Carolina is underachieved by their lofty standards. And I don't know how many people that are Tar Heels are going to continue to go for it. So it'll be interesting to see what the aftermath is like when you lose a game like this. Even though they're missing their best player, Caleb Wilson, it's still unacceptable for North Carolina to go out in the first round of the tournament.
To go from such a high early Thursday afternoon thinking Duke was going to lose, and then to get to Thursday night and it's actually North Carolina losing, it probably hurts a little bit more too, Bucky.
Yeah, I mean, because it looked like, it was going to be the best of both worlds. North Carolina State was out the other night. Then you have Duke that was faltering. They were the number 1 seed. They were hanging by a thread against the 16th seed, Siena. And then to turn around and for my beloved Tar Heels to be one and done, that's a bad night. It's a bad weekend.
Bad weekend. All right, so we'll move on, talk some football, let Bucky lick his wounds away from us over his basketball team. He's got football season to look forward to. Bill Belichick and football, you got that to look forward to. Bucky, I want to start with the Vikings bringing back Carson Wentz. And so that QB room is now going to be Carson Wentz, Kyler Murray, and J.J. McCarthy. Should J.J. be worried about them bringing Carson Wentz back?
I mean, I think he has to understand that he's in a full-on competition, not only for the QB1 job, but for the backup role. And if you're the Minnesota Vikings, looking at the team that you have, what you're doing is trying to set yourself up for success. Last year, they lost because they had poor quarterback play. Well, now they want to make sure that they always have a solid quarterback that gives them a chance to win. If J.J. McCarthy develops and he somehow finds a way to beat the number 2 and the number 1 quarterback out, great. But if not, the Minnesota Vikings have to move on. This is a critical year for Kevin O'Connell. They have a lot of things in place for this team to compete at a high level. They need the quarterback, whoever that is, to play at a high level for them to be able to get it done.
When I think of Carson Wentz, I kind of think it's over for him, that he's like a worse version of Andy Dalton. He's a fire extinguisher you crack open when an emergency breaks out. But did he show anything last year that says that, there's still some tread on those tires?
I think the saving grace for him in Minnesota is their offense was the most productive when he was at the helm. Now, that can be an indictment on J.J. McCarthy, but I think Kevin O'Connell seeks comfort in that, knowing that if Carson Wentz is the backup quarterback, that gives us a chance to continue to win games. My assumption is that Kyler Murray is going to win any quarterback competition that they put up. They wanted him for a reason. This was designed to help them go to the next level. Carson Wentz coming back puts J.J. McCarthy squarely in the crosshairs for being able to either be someone that they have hopes on developing into the future or someone that they're eventually going to pivot on from.
This is just funny for me because you were around and were doing the show then. I can remember when Carson Wentz was having that early success in Philadelphia, I fell head over heels. And Eric Mangini used to rip me on the show. Like, hey, pump your brakes, bro. Let's see him do a second lap around this NFL. And he's held that over my head forever. I really thought Carson Wentz was going to be the next big thing. And, man, he turned into nothing. Why didn't Carson Wentz work?
I think Carson Wentz's insecurities and lack of confidence got the best of him. I think Carson Wentz did what some players do. He looked over his shoulder when the team drafted Jalen Hurts. And even though he had been guaranteed a bunch of money, he was coming off a season that was MVP caliber by most standards. He couldn't get the threat of the backup quarterback out of his mind. And I think it impacted his play. And he's never been able to bounce back from that. At the time of his injury, when he tears his ACL against the Rams, he is playing at an MVP level. We are talking about him even ahead of Jared Goff, because remember the debate was Carson Wentz or Jared Goff, and Jared Goff goes 1, Wentz goes 2, and it looked like the Philadelphia Eagles made out like bandits by getting the right guy, and then it just completely fell off. And then I would say maybe personality-wise, maybe just his inability to connect in the locker room prevented him from playing at a high level and prevented guys from really wanting to compete for him. It just fell off the rails. I've never seen a quarterback story like this one. It is unbelievable to see it unfold like it's unfolded for him.
I want to move on to a suggestion being promoted by the Cleveland Browns, wanting to expand the trading window, like you can trade a draft pick 5 years down the road. I think now the limit is 3 years. I like the 3-year limit. I don't know why the Browns want to trade away the rest of their future so they can make dumb decisions. Or I don't like this. I like the 3-year limit. What's your take? Is there any advantage to expanding this window out to 5 years?
Well, from the Browns standpoint, they want to make it like basketball. I mean, they want to make it where you push everything far out, you trade away things. We've seen these trades that are conducted in the NBA, and they're talking about 20, 32 picks. Like, no one could even have enough attention span to pay attention to what you're trading things for. I don't think this is good. I think owners are going to veto this and squash it right away. No one wants to kick the can that far down the road. I think it's bad business for the league. I cannot anticipate this passing. I do understand some general managers want the flexibility to be able to trade and kind of mortgage their future down the line. But to me, this reminds me of the housing crisis when everyone had those balloon mortgage payments and eventually you have to come due. But you saw the economy collapsed. And so the NFL is not going to allow their economy to collapse by putting these balloon trade offers out there. It's a bad look.
People are starting to fall, not quite in love, but in like with Ty Simpson. I've seen Dan Orlovsky do it. I've seen Chase Daniel do it. It's. Do you see what they're seeing? The guy's got 15 starts. He's about 6'1". Yesterday, Sean King was on and just kind of ripped the whole notion of like, hey man, what are we doing here, overvaluing Ty Simpson? Where do you come down on Ty Simpson? Do you see him as a potential first-round quarterback?
No, absolutely not. I don't see him as a first-round pick, and I believe the hype is so overblown on him. I understand that he started this season out hot. First 8 or 9 games, he looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the country, but you can't dismiss the last 5-6 games that he played. He did not play very well. His completion percentage was right at 60. He started turning the ball over. He got beat up. All the questions that you have and concerns are outliers. So, Jason, we know historically, traditionally, it has been done. Undersized, limited experience, and not A-plus arm talent typically doesn't work well in the league for long. That's Ty Simpson. And what we're getting is we're getting guys that are falling in love with bits and pieces and clinic tape and those things. And no disrespect to Chase Daniel, no disrespect to Dan Orlovsky, but sometimes these guys come from the same world. Whereas a backup, you see it a certain way and you can empathize with Ty Simpson and what he's doing. But at the end of the day, he is not a franchise quarterback. He has not played well enough to be considered a franchise quarterback. And we can talk about, oh, let him sit a year and these things. He is the only guy that we're talking about giving grace to when it comes to how he's performed in college. He was a backup to Jalen Milroe, and he was run out because they have a young, promising quarterback in the building. To me, I don't see how you can say or justify that Ty Simpson is a first-round pick.
Sean King said we have an evaluator's crisis, basically. that Mel Kiper and all these guys, they don't see anything negative about anybody anymore. That in order to keep the lines of communication open with the agents, these guys are being represented by the same guys that are representing players. They or their agencies are representing people like Mel Kiper, people like Chase Daniel, that like no one or a lot of guys are far less likely to be critical of any of these quarterbacks than 20 years ago in the scouting process.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is some to that. Like you have some blended ties that can impact the way that you want to present your case when we're on this medium. However, like your job to the audience is to be truthful and report what you see. And what I'm seeing is someone who at the end of the year didn't play well. When the competition was better, he faltered. And we talk about size concerns. Then there's a durability issue. That's why you don't like smaller quarterbacks, because they're more likely to get hurt. We talk about inexperience. Didn't play well down the stretch against the better teams because you haven't had enough reps to really get it. To me, there's nothing about him that speaks to, hey, this is a franchise quarterback who has elite skills that we have to just take him in the first round and hitch our wagon to him. I just don't see it in that. And I will say that if you're with a team, you're not only comparing Ty Simpson to what we're seeing this year, but who's coming. Ty Simpson versus Arch Manning, Ty Simpson versus Dante Moore, Ty Simpson versus the rest of the 2027 class. How does he stack up? And I would say that if you're looking at it, if I waste a first round pick on him now, it takes me out of next year and what I could get. Do you want to make that move?
Bucky, we're about a week into free agency. It's been a pretty remarkable early free agency season. Has any team so far this offseason done a better job than all the rest? Is there any team that you'd identify as the winner of the offseason so far?
I would say there are two teams that stand out to me. One, the San Francisco 49ers, because I felt like Kyle Shanahan did his best job of coaching last year. He did the most with the least in terms of all the injuries that they had. He still found a way to put this team in a position to almost win the number one seed. Well, now he goes back and he gets Mike Evans to put on the outside. He goes and adds Christian Kirk, another wide receiver on the outside. Because the biggest issue for the Niners had been in these big games, they don't have route runners that can get open against press coverage. Well, now you have a jump ball specialist, a red zone threat in Mike Evans, who's a sure-to-be Hall of Famer. You have Christian Kirk, who is dynamic in the slot. It allows you to balance out the offense. It allows you to take advantage of the things that people are doing to slow down Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. If they are healthy, they are great. And then the Kansas City Chiefs, I know it sounds like a homer pick because you are all Mr. Kansas City, but Kenneth Walker Jr. coming on board. I have said this for a long time. The thing that was holding the Kansas City Chiefs back, they didn't have special in the backfield. I liked Isaiah Pacheco, but there was nothing about him that would make the defensive coordinator stay up at night. Kenneth Walker went on a remarkable run during the playoffs where he was over 100 every game. To me, he balances out the offense. He takes some of the pressure off Pat Mahomes, and he will enable the big play to come back in this offense because no longer will they be able to sit in two high safeties and park the safeties in the parking lot and force Pat Mahomes to dink and dunk. This becomes an opportunity for the Chiefs to get back to the fun offensive style that we fell in love with when Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and those guys were lighting up the scoreboards all over.
Bucky, thank you for the time. My condolences to you and Michael Jordan and Kenny Smith and all the rest. Go Duke. Go Devils. Thank you, Bucky. When we come back, I'm going to get into my panel discussion about my interview with Cam Newton. We'll do that with Virgil, Shemeka, Dre, and Steve Kim. Next! Are you confident that today your kids won't be satisfied? Hey, we knocked off the ranked team. We knocked off the undefeated team. Job well done. Are they ready for Toledo?
We'll be ready to play. I can give you a cheesy answer and make it sound like I got all the answers. We all got brand new players every year. If I had a team full of 3-year guys that have been with me for 3 years, we've lived it, we understand it, we know how we're each going to handle it. I've got 11 new guys on my team. And the fact that we finally got over the hurdle, the fact that 3 days ago, thank God I'm not a social media guy, but they are. The kids are, and anyone that tries to prevent them from being is fighting a losing battle. And I just told them after the game, I was like, do me a favor, don't be on social media all night, because the same people that are texting you great job or tweeting or whatever you call it these days, Xing you or whatever, they're the same ones that 3 days ago were saying we're a bunch of bums because we lost 6 of our last 7 games. So don't fall in love with that nonsense. It is what it is. People can have opinions. It's great. Worry about your family. But let's have a good night's sleep. Let's get our minds right, and let's prepare to go play our best game today against Toledo.
Why do so many people hate you?
Jason Whitlock is a click-chasing clown.
I can't believe he's still with us. I don't think anything works harder than his cholesterol.
Probably the worst individual I've ever had the displeasure of ever being associated with.
They hate what I stand for. Most of these homosexuals in the media scared to death of me. You're not scared. I have no interest in being relatable. I have an interest in being biblical. Stephen A. He's fraudulent. He's lying about his college basketball career. In 4th grade, got held back because they thought he was retarded.
I think he is the peak of the spear in sports journalism, whether we want to agree with it or not.
The LGBTQIA plus BLM alphabet mafia attacked me. If Matt Stafford was here, he'd slap the taste out of your mouth for comparing
He won't get
him
far.
to Trevor Lawrence. Cam could have won 6, 7 Super Bowls, 3 or 4 MVPs, and could have had the resume that would have made all the dreads, the outfits, all of that irrelevant. Could have been Michael Jordan. And Cam is sitting out there, no, I want to be 2 Chainz.
Never.
How are we all viewed as black men?
We have an audience of 1. If I catch you at an NBA Finals playing solitaire, I think you're gay and don't like basketball.
That's aggressive.
Yeah.
That's very aggressive.
You asked, Cam. That was Cam Newton and myself. Now, 2 days ago, I believe they released that on Wednesday. Caught me a tiny bit off guard. I thought they were releasing it on Friday. But I'm so glad that I agreed to appear on Cam Newton's 4th and 1 program. It was an opportunity for me to show a fuller picture of myself. It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it was an opportunity for me to get a bit more insight into Cam Newton. I thought it was a very healthy discussion. I thought it was a very entertaining discussion. I thought it was a very authentic discussion. And I tip my hat to Cam Newton and his co-host, sidekick. I think his name is, they call him Peggy. I don't know why I've forgotten his real name. But anyway, I'm glad that I did it. I hope that you all have watched it or will hunt it down and seek it out. We're going to have a conversation about it today because I think it was important. I think it's the first time in some time when 2 black men who fundamentally disagree, have a little tension in their relationship, actually sat down, had a conversation, kept it respectful, held to their strong beliefs and opinions, and learned something about each other. And then when it was over, dapped each other up, kept it respectful, and moved on. I want to talk about it today with Shemeka Michelle, Virgil Walker, Steve Kim, and Dre Baldwin. They all watched the interview. I think it's that important. I think it's so unique for black men that disagree to have that type of conversation. I think it's worthy of a little further analysis. And so, you know what? I'm going to start with the Korean Cosell. He's got the most history with me here, I think, of all this group. And, you know, he's followed Cam Newton for as long as I have. Steve, just your initial thoughts on, you know, the powwow that Cam Newton and Jason Whitlock had?
First of all, I really enjoyed that interview. And here's what I want to say. I think Jim Brown would be very proud of you, Jason, because remember when Jim, his home at Hollywood Hills, used to bring the Bloods and the Crips together? And they'd have
I
a
do
truce.
remember that.
And there'd be a ceasefire for about 2 weeks. Be no drive-bys. There's peace in the streets, and everyone got along. That's kind of what I thought of. But really, on a global scale, this is like Reagan and Gorbachev coming together. And you guys tore down that wall. I actually think you guys might have a little bit, dare I say it, a friendship. I kind of thought you guys got along better than I thought. I actually saw both of you making good points. And it was not an interview. I looked at it as a great conversation. And I would suggest that you guys collaborate to do something more regular and to discuss more issues. Not just once a year, but I would say every couple months, because I really thought the concept worked and I enjoyed, again, like I said, the conversation.
Yeah, I think it was an opportunity for both of us to take our perspectives about each other to a higher level. And I left that conversation with more respect for Cam than I had going in. And it's not that I had no respect for Cam. I've got plenty of respect for Cam. I have respect for him, his talent as an athlete. I have respect for his talent as someone, a jock that wants to get into the media space. I think the guy is talented. I think he needs better advice. And I think he was willing to at least hear someone telling him, hey, man, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Without just flat out rejecting it. I thought it was a good look for Cam Newton.
Yeah, and I got to give you credit. You're a Jedi. You really are. I want to call you Obi-Wan Whitlock, because for every criticism, you also said, man, you got so much talent. And I can almost see him blushing. Like you disarmed him, like, I see what you're doing. I saw it, but you meant it. And I can honestly say, at least from what I observed, you'd have to ask Kim this, but I thought he came away with a clear understanding and a heightened respect for you, Jason, as a person after that conversation.
All right, Steve, put a little pin in your thoughts. I'll come back to you. When I come back to you, I'm going to ask you, what was your favorite moment in the interview? And then we'll discuss that. Shemeka Michelle, what was your initial reaction to the conversation between Cam and myself?
I thought it was an excellent conversation, Jason. There were times that I was on the edge of my seat, a little bit frustrated by Cam's explanation, and I feel like he wasn't bending sometimes the way I wanted him to bend or actually understand your point of view. And I was thinking, is Jason going to stand 10 toes down? And you would sit up in your seat. And I was like, oh, it was just like that. I understood the diamond earrings because I didn't know Jason prior to Fearless. So it was like, okay, Jason got a little, little pushback, and I loved it. So I thought it was excellent. I agree with everything, of course, you were saying, because I think we have pretty much the same worldview. There was only one time, Jason, that I disagreed with you, and that was when you told Cam he would have to cut his hair. And I was thinking, I don't think he would need to cut his hair. I just think it doesn't need to be the focal point. Like when he wears the bonnets and he's looking like somebody's aunt, or when he cuts the top of the hat out and the dreads are coming through the top. Like, it doesn't have to be the focal point. Like, it could be there, but not the center of attention. So that was the only part I really disagreed with you on.
We didn't get to spend a lot of time on that. I mean, we spent some time, but we didn't go back and forth because we wanted to keep the conversation moving. But I think what I would advise Cam, I would tell him to cut the hair. I think that Cam, at his highest level as a human being, as a broadcaster, as a personality, Cam should be like giving Steve Harvey a run for his money. The people should be like, who's crispier today, Steve Harvey or Cam Newton? That's who Cam Newton is. Cam Newton wants to show up and be noticed and recognized, like, man, look at Cam. And the way to do that, his clothes are actually overshadowing Cam Newton. His hair is overshadowing Cam Newton. And Cam at his best is like, no, the clothes should accentuate that, hey, Cam Newton is here. Cam Newton's about business. Cam Newton's one of the crispiest dressers that we have. That, to me, is why you cut the hair down so people can actually focus on you and not, like, what is he wearing? And I've never seen that. And blah, blah. Steve Harvey is the lane he should be in and should be selling clothes the same way as Steve Harvey. It's what Michael Jordan, in his heyday as a basketball player, the dude was always, casket clean, always. And there's a lot of style to that.
Yeah, as long as it's not the Fifth Sunday Steve Harvey suits, the long, baggy, I wouldn't want to see Cam in that.
All right, I'm going to circle back to you and get your favorite. Although, hold on, before I move on, you seem to be suggesting that, like, on Fearless, I'm way too laid back and non-confrontational or not aggressive or clarify that comment to me, like, this is Whitlock that maybe had more swag, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think you did have more swag, but also when you're on Fearless, you're very I don't think you're very confrontational. Like, there are times when I think you could have body slammed a few people. I'm not going to name any names. Like, you could have really given them a verbal body slam, but you were kind, you gave them the space to just be wrong and move on with life. But this time I feel like you didn't do that. You were in a different space. And I just saw a different Jason for me, again, because I didn't know you prior to Fearless. So for me, it was a different side of you.
The reason why I circle back and ask that is because John Hadley says virtually the same thing. It's like, hey, man, snap on some people from time to time. Or give me that old Whitlock where like, man, this dude's crazy. And I actually think that virtually everything comes out of my mouth sounds crazy to the audience. It's not crazy to me, but I'm trying to align my thoughts and what comes out of my mouth with the Bible, and that is revolutionary. And so I don't feel like I have to do as much with inflection or sitting up in my seat, but I do occasionally sit up in my seat. But you and Hadley are saying the same thing, that I'm too laid back, not confrontational enough, and I need to spice it up a bit more. And yeah. I think, go ahead.
I'm so sorry, but I was going to say what I saw from you on Cam's show was, I don't know if you remember, and again, I'm not going to name any names. We were in your office one time. It was early on. I had pretty much just started. And you had to confront another employee who was acting like a child.
Uncle Jimmy, yeah.
And that's the same way I felt watching this interview. It's like, okay, I knew you were capable, but I just hadn't seen it in such a long time that I thought maybe that person was gone, or that was just a fluke that time. But I saw that this time, and I said, oh, the diamond earrings man is still here. He just, he's benevolent most times.
I'm Mr. Nice Guy. I don't think most of the internet would agree with that at all, but maybe I'm wrong. Virgil, you got to first start off with Shemeka's critique. Is this right? Am I too soft on Fearless?
No, on Fearless, you can be. I get the brunt of it, so I'm not the person to ask. Whenever you do kind of go off or snap a little bit, I get a little pushback. So I'm the wrong person. So for me, I get all the hits, but I'm capable. I can take them and push back and keep it moving. But no, I think on Fearless, you do what you do. You're moderating a lot of the conversations more times than not. And so your thought process is, how do I continue the conversation forward? You're actively listening. So it's a different thing than when you're on someone someone else's show, and you don't have to do that. They're asking you a direct question, and it's a back and forth. So it's a little bit different on the other show. I do agree. Like I thought you and Cam had such mutual respect, which was obvious, and there was a it wasn't just surface, right. One of the things that was impressive to me was how the level of respect you went to depth. Like you went through his career, you walked through. I thought that was powerful, and disarming for him as a commentator, someone who's trying to navigate his show. It was disarming because you had so much depth about his career. You understood all of what happened, so it wasn't flattery, right? It was purposed. It was very specific. I thought all of that was good to see for people. The other thing is, I think a lot of people who are planning to watch. Kind of moving my thoughts to what you guys engaged in. I think a lot of what people watched, they're just wanting somebody to win. And in that regard, I think Cam has a lot to lose with this interview. I think he has a lot to lose from his base that kind of rah-rah him and applaud, him being kind of nasty maybe toward you, or the folks who are against you, who come on and see that Cam actually treated you with respect, and then let you say toward the end what you did about Stephen A. And he came back toward the end, but his responses were rather soft. He didn't come directly at you with it. He made sure that his bread was buttered on that side because that's where he's getting paid. But overall, I thought it was a great interview. It's something that people needed to see. It was great. It was entertaining. It was fun. One thing that I wish were different about that particular interview that I think will be a difference maker, and I was glad that you opened the invitation for them to come on your platform in person, because I think the dynamic of being on a call and far away lends itself to to taking a little bit longer for what Shemeka was talking about, which is the pushback, because it's difficult to read people. If you're not spending a lot of time with them, it takes a minute to kind of read the room when you're on a call far away, rather than when you're up close and y'all have had time to kind of jaw at each other over some lunch, and then you come into the room and then y'all you know where you can go, where the boundaries are safe. So I can't wait for the next conversation, because I think it has a potential really to go some places that perhaps this one didn't. I think Cam has more to lose in this. It'll be interesting to see how his folks respond.
Dre, your thoughts?
First of all, I was glad to see the conversation happen. I think the willingness to engage between two people who have traded barbs, let's say, back and forth over the internet, for them to actually get together and have a respectful conversation is something that I think would help all the viewers of both sides in all different conflicts, whether we're talking on the political side, sports side, entertainment side. So it was good to see you all have the conversation. And also for you specifically, Jason, I think it was helpful for you because Cam's audience, a lot of people in Cam's audience probably know your name because Cam has mentioned you, but they only know you from the clips. And anyone here who's been on the internet knows that you can take a clip and make anybody look like anything. So a lot of Cam's audience probably only knows you from the clips. Now they get to hear you in full context. That helps you, for them to hear you have a respectful conversation with someone who has dissed you, let's say, for lack of a better term. And for your audience, because you've encouraged your audience to go listen to the interview, to hear Cam. And one thing you said about Cam is that he is pretty willing to engage. And I think it was Sean King you had on the show today or Thursday. Sean King was talking about football players, and I think he was right about this. They tend to not be the former athletes who do all the whining and crying. And when he said it, I thought about that. I said, I think he's right. It's not the football players doing all the whining and crying. It's the basketball players on the men and the female side that do all the whining and crying in media. It's not the football guys. They tend to be mentally tough enough to take it, or they just don't engage. So Cam was a representative of that in the conversation.
I want to, Steve, before I head back to you, I want to play a clip where I think we talked about Cam as an icon, Cam and his hair. This is about a 5-minute clip. It'll give you a good taste or flavor for how the conversation went. Let's play SOT number 2.
Let me educate the audience on the time and tenure that you're referring to. Let's talk about Peter King. When I first came into the NFL, at that time, it was the biggest rookie deal of apparel at that time. I had signed to Under Armour. And the conversation came by way of making that announcement that I signed with Under Armour. It was at that time upwards of $1 million. And I was surprised, given that I was wondering why we didn't get opportunities like, said LeBron James, said Kevin Durant, said basketball players. But I learned that football players are considered masked athletes. Not a lot of people know exactly who they are if they take off their helmet. Now, you may say Tom Brady, that's a outlier. You say Odell Beckham, that's an outlier. You say Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, those are outliers. But for the majority of football players, you are not recognized outside of your number and, how you look. So when he asked me the question, what are you to think about this particular deal? And I responded, I don't just see myself as a football player. I see this deal being created because I possess a power of being not just a football player, but an entertainer and an icon. That subject matter was the subject of, and it caught fire, like Cam Newton sees himself as an entertainer and an icon, hence to the word, or to why we call Iconic Saga. And for us, it was to be able to, in that time, be able to control our narrative as athletes. And that was something that was taken out of context. Did I say it? Absolutely. But the question wasn't also inserted with the response. That's why the icon word kind of came. Now, second, when you start talking about the culture shift of Cam growing his hair, when Cam's, worrying about fashion, it was around 2015, around 2016, to your point. And here's the reason why. There were still times in my career that I was still labeled, you're still a black man in America. Hence, I'll give you a real example. We go to Nashville, Tennessee. A fan for the Tennessee Titans had took out a column to complain that Cam Newton is thrusting in front of fans with all I was just doing was celebrating. There was also a time, why is Cam celebrating enough or celebrating too much? Hence to why I did my celebration in front of the world for the Thanksgiving game that we played that same year in Jerry's World when we played the Cowboys. There are still examples of no matter what you are still labeled to some individuals this particular character. I understood that. And when I would have a conversation with said individuals, like I'm having a conversation with you, I'm not shameful to say I am proud to come from Atlanta, Georgia. When I go back to the communities where I'm from, I see way more people with dreadlocks than I see with fades, clean shavings, or whatever. So for me, nobody cares that I've given millions of dollars to the next generation of athletes. They don't care about that. They care about what Cam says when he's on First Take, when he's on 106 in Sports, when he's on 4th and 1, when he's on Funky Friday. But the visual is still important to when you start to see who's the voice behind what's being said, and is it relatable to the next generation? So it wasn't to be rebellious. It was always to stand for something, to say, bro, you don't got to go to the NFL to be able to talk sports. Hey, you don't got to go to the NBA to be a journalist. Hey, you don't even have to be good at baseball to cover the sport. You just have to have the willingness to study and know what you're talking about. And I've always stood on that principle, but there's times where athletes may have a response to something and they don't even realize the weight of their voice, the weight of their actions, and who they are really representing. And it is to say, there's been times where I've let people down. But I will not take that same route to say, tone it down. That's where I have to agree to disagree, to say, I can't do that. Because when I go to the corner stores, when I go to the barbershops, when I go to the grocery stores, when I go to so many different areas in Atlanta, Georgia, said places say, hey, bro, keep doing what you're doing. You're inspiring the next.
That's there's, I thought, million things, and that was one of the most fascinating, powerful things that Cam said, arguing his defense. And one of the main takeaways I have from that is just like, man, I wish these athletes were better educated on the history of athletics, even the sports that they play. Everything seems brand new to them, and like it's only happened to me. And if they actually understood the history of sports, the sports that they're playing, they would understand, or someone like me would say to them like, hey man, what you think you're the only one going through this? You think you're a fan wrote a letter complaining about the way you were dancing? And I would be like, well, Cam, man, you ever heard of a guy named Terry Bradshaw? He was the #1 overall pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They hung his image in effigy inside of Three Rivers Stadium. That entire city was done with Terry Bradshaw before he ever won a Super Bowl. They replaced him with Joe Gilliam, a black quarterback, I believe in 1974 or 75. Before they won their first Super Bowl, they went into that year thinking Joe Gilliam was going to be their starting quarterback, and everybody in Pittsburgh hated Terry Bradshaw. They called him dumb. Hollywood Henderson, a Cowboys linebacker, said he couldn't spell cat if you spotted him, the C and the A. It's like none of this is brand new. This goes along with being #1 draft pick, getting all that attention. It all feels brand new to these guys. And Dre, I'm going to come to you on this. I've argued for years that athletes should be able to study their profession while in college. They need to know. Just like a music major can come study music, a football player should be able to learn the business and the history of football so that if he makes it into professional football or if he wants a job in professional football, he'll actually know how they built that business, what people went through to build that business, what the athletes go through in those positions. I think these guys are all oblivious to it.
I agree with that, Jason. And he said when he goes back to the hood, people are telling him that he's inspiring, as if that's because of his hair and the way he dresses. Well, did Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, did they not inspire people when they were playing? I mean, they did the same thing, and they were in suits, and they were business guys. They were corporate. So what Cam is saying is it's really not even a real argument, but because, as you said, he's probably not thinking about those guys. He's thinking about himself. And the biggest challenge with that, and this is the biggest challenge I had with Cam's argument, and I know you weren't able to go into detail with him because it is his show. It's this whole concept of being relatable. He used that word often on the show, and his co-host co-signed him. This, I need to be relatable to the people in the hood because they need to see people like me, or I need to look like them. He even said it in that clip. In Atlanta, you see more people with dreads than you see with fades. What the hell does that have to do with inspiring the next generation to do something? It has nothing to do with your hairstyle. It's how you talk, how you present yourself. What are you actually doing? What are your actual actions? That's what people are going off of, not your hairstyle. That's surface level stuff. And he's still thinking surface level. And one of the biggest challenges that youngish black men have when they're on the come up is this disconnect between, okay, I'm trying to get up to this level 10, or I may even be on my way there, but I came from a level 2. I can't get so close to the level 10 that the people at the level 2 feel like I'm not with them anymore. I have to keep showing them something to make them believe I'm still one of them. And this creates a disconnect between, are you over here or are you over there? Which direction do you want to head? And Cam is heading up, but he's looking backwards. And he's using that as, I guess this is his point of keeping it real. I'm keeping it real with the hood and where I come from as a way of showing them that he's not getting too far away from them, when instead what he should be doing is saying, hey, I'm on my way up here. Those of you back there where I came from, I'm going to tell you what I did, even if you don't have my talent. I'm going to tell you what I did structurally so that you can get up here with me. I'm not going to keep doing things to show you that I'm there with you. You need to come to where I'm at. I'm not going to keep coming back to where you're at. That's the biggest challenge, that once people start to get successful, especially black people, that seems to pull them back mentally.
Virgil, I want you to chime in here and give a more biblical spin on what Dre just said. I think Dre's 100% on point. I think it's consistent with biblical values.
No doubt about that. And if you would have, on the backside of that, you made so many faces during the course of that little soliloquy. I was definitely watching that, wondering what is he. If Cam would take a breath, I cannot wait for the punch that's going to come from Jason. I was like, please just take a breath, and he didn't do it. So it ended up waiting until the end, and you flipped the script on him, and that's probably one of the proudest moments. I actually, when you walk through that next section, I actually stopped the tape and just walked around my house and went, look at this. Like it was impressive. And the reason why was because of what you said. You talked about the fact that, this is about an audience of one, right? We're here to impress an audience of one. It's not about being relatable. It's about a relationship with Christ. You walked them through the standard, because all of what Cam was laying out was arbitrary. All of what he was laying out was subjective. It had no focal point. The beauty of what you laid out for him in a biblical worldview was he knew that. Like deep down, his parents, you brought that whole package up in the course of the conversation. It's about Christ. It's about the Bible. It's about following him. It's not about being relatable. It's not about you. It's about him. It's about it's about reflecting the glory of God through the platform that you've been given. And so all of that was on display for Cam. You laid it out, I thought, perfectly. Like that was my go to church moment right there. So I took it off and went on to head to church. But the beauty of what you did was, again, while he didn't want to fully admit it during the course of the show, but man, you touched something, because you even went further and said, listen, I know everything that I'm saying, your mom and dad would be agreeing with everything I'm saying because it's based in a biblical worldview. He knew that. So I thought that was the high watermark for the entire conversation that you all had.
Steve, just Cam, and just I wonder what his advisors are telling him, not about this conversation, but just his whole deal about this obsession with being relatable. I just wonder, like, and look, everybody that surrounds him, they want something from him, a percentage of his money, to run around and party with him, to go to social events with him. He probably has very few people that don't want anything from him, and just other than his mom and dad. And everybody has difficult relationships, or they tune out their parents at some point. But anyway, your reaction to that exchange between Cam and myself.
Well, some of that had to do with the fact you guys brought up Jordan. Why is he so popular? To go back to Cam's statement about being iconic, when I heard that, I've never really delved into it. I always thought that just meant being an unbelievable football player like a Peyton Manning, John Elway, and you say, wow, those guys are iconic within those cities. Now, here's the interesting part. Before I watched that interview, when John Hadley gave me the link, I was actually watching Boomerang. The movie's been on a lot the last month or so. I don't know why. But look at the look of that movie, how everyone's hairstyle is. I don't think anyone had tattoos, but that was the norm back then. That movie was released in the summer of 1992. So I think there is a point to be made. The reason why Michael Jordan was popular back then is that was the look everyone wanted. That was accepted, right? In 2025-26, Cam Newton is probably within the norms of society, within that culture, whatever a culture he wants to speak to. So to be fair, when you say he has to cut his hair to get some of these opportunities, Jason, he's already gotten those opportunities, or some of them, with that current hairstyle. And I don't know if he's ever willing to go back, to be honest with you.
I hear you. Don't lose your point. I hear you, but again, I never said he has to do this to get those opportunities. I'm saying if Cam wants to reach the highest level of himself, he needs to quit conforming to the culture and be man enough just to be himself.
Yes, but Jason, I don't disagree with that. But as you look around the networks today and the look that people have, or the athletes, like I've told you this before, go watch any NFL Films team highlight video, or go through a media guide and look at the players and their haircuts and their styles, right? And just the way they even talk. It's different. Like I don't know if you want to call it evolution or de-evolution, but it is different. Okay, and so the other thing, but I thought the funniest part was when he talked about his hats, and you gave him some advice. Your opinion was, hey, tone down the hats. And this is where Cam loves to make these false equivalencies. Because he said, well, Jason, during your days on Speak for Yourself, you wore a hat. Jason, I was like, come on, that's. Let me just put it to you like this. I'm sure you remember Rick Smits of the Indiana Pacers. He had bad feet, couldn't get above them. He used to dunk once in a while. But you know what's funny? Daryl Dawkins used to dunk. Those two guys' dunks were not the same. Neither were your hats. I always thought your hats were relatively modest and pretty conservative, and he's trying to compare what you wore to what he wore. And that's where Cam, I think, loses himself trying to justify himself with some of these comparisons that just don't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, my hat was like a hat tip to old school newspaper writers and the kind of hats that they wore. It wasn't Superman, it was Jimmy Olsen or whatever. You know, the guys wear those hats and they put press in front of them. That it was a hat tip to. I was trying to convey. Oh, Whitlock's an old school journalist. So you make a magnificent point. Shemeka, I want you to referee the dispute between me and Steve here in terms of Steve is basically suggesting, hey, if Cam did what you're suggesting, Jason, he would be out of style for this era. And look, he's already getting these opportunities, and he fits the look that is popular right now.
I don't think he would be out of style because I don't see a lot of people or men wearing scarves and bonnets and things like that. This was the part of the interview that really frustrated me that I spoke up earlier. It was like I needed to get some ranch or Catalina because it was a word salad for me. What I don't think Cam realizes, and maybe this is water under the bridge, but that he didn't have to be entertaining or iconic. He was an amazing football player. So he was already that because of what he was doing. I have a really nice picture of myself in a #1 Carolina Panthers jersey. Cam was already that. I remember you and Steve saying a few years ago that older athletes wanted to be the best at the sport they were playing, and they knew that would make them famous. Modern athletes want to be famous without just focusing on being the best. And I don't think Cam realizes that he was already being relevant to the community. He was already being an icon. He was already being someone that these kids could look up to just by being Cam Newton, just by being Superman. That's the way we all referenced him during that time. So he didn't have to actually go to be this fashion icon or whatever and go above and beyond to be relevant to the community. That's silly. He was already that. And so for me, I feel like he kind of tossed all of that to the side to be relevant to the culture. And I go to the whole Kanye, F the culture, if that's what you have to do, because you were already that. He didn't need to do any other thing.
I think Shemeka has nailed it. And Steve, that's a point I wanted to make to you, and particularly to Dre. Steve, I'll start with you. This is the plague of LeBron James and more than an athlete. You got to remember, LeBron James is still playing. He's 5, maybe 6 years older than Cam. LeBron James helped influence Cam Newton into this deal. Like, I got to be more than just the greatest player. And he actually didn't have to be more than that. Cam had a chance, and I told him directly, like, you could have been the Michael Jordan of football. All you had to do was dominate football, and all these dreams you have of being a global icon, they all would have come true. All he had to do was play the game at the level that his talents made available to him.
Yeah, and first of all, I want to make this clear. I agree with Shemeka on the fashion. I'm specifically talking about the hairstyle, because there was a time in his first 5-6 years, he had very short cropped haircut, and he wore very traditional, I would say relatively conservative, sharp-looking tailored suits. I mean, he had a great look where it looked like, wow, this guy looks like the CEO of Fortune 500 companies, very polished. He gives a great look. And in terms of being relatable, I thought Jason and Shemeka, he had one of the greatest touchdown celebrations I've ever seen. You know what he did? He'd score a touchdown, he'd point out a kid, and he'd hand him the football. I thought that was unbelievable how he made people's days like that. And that 2015 season was special, all the way up until the Super Bowl. But from that point on, I don't know if it was about him or the overall team. He never recaptured that magic, and there was a decline in play. And I think that's the one thing that Cam may not ever admit. But if you look at the statistics from that MVP season all the way to the end, it was a gradual decline at that point. The apex actually led to the descent of his play. And I think that matters when you talk about being an iconic athlete.
Dre, I'm going to bring it to you. And you may have been overseas playing football or playing basketball at this time and maybe weren't aware. But Steve's 2015, he's MVP, he's leading to the Super Bowl. And I'm telling you, what Cam did, and I said it to him in this interview, maybe not as directly as I'm about to say it to you, but in his mind, it's like, okay, I've reached this top athletically. I'm the MVP. I just played in the Super Bowl. And that's when he said, now I got to execute my global outreach plan to be relatable and connect with the hood and Allen Iverson myself up. And I got to be more than an athlete. And this is, I think LeBron James has led these guys astray. Michael Jordan focused on being a great basketball player while he was playing basketball. And then when he got out of basketball, he's dabbled in some other things, mostly related to sports. Now he's into auto racing and all that other stuff. But this is this whole belief that while you're playing sports, you have to be more than that, or, you know, you're underachieving and you're blowing it. You're not setting yourself up for your post-career. When you have as much talent as Cam had, no, setting yourself up for your post-career is doubling and tripling down on your football career and maximizing that.
Well, we call it hedging your bets, Jason. That's what athletes do these days. They hedge their bets. So Cam got to the top or near the top in 2015 when he won the MVP, made it to the Super Bowl, didn't win. Now he has a choice. Can I triple down on football so we can come back and win the next year? Or I know I'm successful at football. Let me brand extend and do all these other things to hedge my bets just in case I don't become super duper at football. I'm still good. Now I can leverage that goodness instead of greatness, but goodness into these other lanes. And this is what you see every athlete doing these days. The difference with Michael Jordan is that he said it himself in his own material. I focused 100% on basketball, and the extra stuff came to me because of that. Here's the challenge, though, Jason, is that if you quadruple down on the one thing, now you're giving yourself no exit ramp if the one thing doesn't work. And Cam had just had the one thing he got really far, then it didn't work. He didn't jump on the football. He got trashed that day after the Super Bowl. And maybe he didn't want to quadruple down out of the subconscious. I can't read the man's mind. But subconscious fear, hey, what if I keep trying and I never get this far again? Then who am I? What did I make of all this? Let me give myself some exit ramps so I can be successful at 3, 4, 7 other things. LeBron James did the same thing. Just in case this one doesn't work, I still have these other things. So you create this optionality, and this is what the world has become, and especially with athletes. So that's the thing that happened with Cam, I think, from the outside looking in.
Oh, let's say that did happen. It shouldn't have happened in terms of, like, if I'm Cam Newton and I have as much talent as any quarterback who's ever played the game, and I just put together this incredible MVP season, and I just got paid, probably got some sort of $100 million contract at that time, he doesn't need a plan B. He's on plan D. I mean, if he's smart with that $100 million they gave him, he would never have to work again. He would invest some of that money. He'd live off the residual. He had, with his talent, with the money he had earned by that point, with having won the MVP, he didn't need a plan B. He's not Brock Purdy. He's not, somebody that Matt Ryan. He's not Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan won an MVP and got paid a lot of money and all that other stuff. But Matt Ryan had a great MVP type season, but no one was sitting there like, man, Matt Ryan's got as much talent as any quarterback that's ever played. And same with Michael Jordan. The reason why he quadrupled down is because, like, ain't nobody. It would be like Wilt Chamberlain needing a plan B to, like, no, man, you're 7 foot, you're a freak of nature. They can't stop you in the NBA. This is the only plan you need.
Well, look around at that time. We're talking 2015. This is about the inflection point of social media. This is when social media started to become ubiquitous. Everybody had it. The phones got much more powerful. Everybody had one. And if you quadruple down, here's the thing when you play a sport. When you play a sport for a living, you work about 4 hours a day. You got a lot of time on your hands. And when you quadruple down on a sport, y'all saw The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. What was he doing when he wasn't playing? He was stuck in his hotel room with nothing to do because that's all he did. His identity was collapsed into one thing. It's actually a very boring existence, relatively speaking, if you're only going to do that one thing because you can't do it 24 hours a day. So Cam, I'm sure he had a phone. He's looking around. He sees all these other things that were being dangled in front of him because of his popularity. Why not partake in these? Why not grow my hair out? Why not do this fashion stuff? Why not do all this stuff? I can still be an all-pro at football and do these things. I can put the slash in there and I can do all these things at the same time, still be successful. Nobody can say he wasn't a successful athlete, despite the fact that he has these bets. But had he put everything into one thing and had it not worked out, had he never won another MVP or another Super Bowl, well, what would the culture say about him? All you did was football and you still didn't get to the top. Look at you. You didn't make the most of this. Well, now he can say, well, I did all these other things. So if that one didn't work, I had this one.
Virgil helped me out here because I don't think I need much help, but I'm just going to take the conversation a different direction. And Shemeka, you may chime in here as well. What he should have done, rather than be bored, is do what men do, what Michael Jordan did. He should have got married, should have had kids with that wife, should have focused when he's not out on the football field preparing for the next football season. He should have been spending that time rearing his sons and daughters with his wife, partnering with his brother and mama and daddy. His daddy got a church. I'm sure they would have loved to have Cam come over and help out at the church. There is plenty of things to do other than grow your hair out and start wearing bonnets around your head and trying to make sure that when you go to the barbershop, everybody's dapping you up. There's other things that he could have done that wouldn't have interfered with his football, probably would have enhanced and made him a more well-rounded person. He should have focused on that. That's what Michael Jordan did. That's what Tom Brady did. And I know both those guys got divorced. But look at the careers they had because they had their home life in order for a time and had their kids and all that. They had a well-rounded life. And Michael Jordan went out and played some golf when he wasn't playing basketball. There's other things he could have done. Virgil?
Yeah, there are other things that he could do, but the reality is, if all you know is football, I mean, that's all. Everything in his life revolved around his freakishly athletic body and what he could do on a football field, and it culminated he was at the top of the mountain. I mean, every kid in America was doing his dab. I mean, yes, the celebration was he gave the football to the kid, but the next thing he'd hit the dab. You had every kid.
No, that was Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, was that Colin Kaepernick?
Yeah, Cam did the Superman deal.
This is why I don't make sports references.
Cam did the dab too. Okay, they both
Kaepernick
did.
did the kiss his bicep.
This is why I stick to Bible. This is why I stick to Bible. I'm gonna stay in my lane. That said, the last thing I remember about Cam, polished up Cam, was, and this I do remember, was right after the Super Bowl that he walked off of that interview, and from there it's like everything went downhill. What I would love is in the second conversation that you have with him is to hear him unpack kind of the trajectory and the decisions that he made outside of that decision to walk off. You know, because after that, that's when we saw next season, it was the bonnets. And I'm thinking, why is this very masculine man, this statuesque man, got a bonnet on his head like somebody's auntie? It doesn't make sense. Absolutely doesn't make sense. and he went in a whole different direction. I hear everything that Dre's saying. I just don't. We're human beings created in God's image, and as a result, man, we're capable of a lot of different things. Cam's realizing that right now, and some of the ways that he's engaging in social media and in journalism and the like. There are plenty of things for us to do, man. Men all through history have reinvented themselves after reaching the top of a mountain and falling. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we can do. And to the point you made, I think we've got to go back to core principles. And when you do have a fall like that, it brings you back to core principles. I'll say this one last thing. One of the things that I noticed after your interview, Jason, because I was trying to do more research on Cam and kind of where he's going and the trajectory. I saw the interview that he did with was it Stephen Smith, his one of his wide receivers, or one of his teammates.
Steve Smith Senior or Junior?
Yes.
Is it Steve Smith Junior or Senior? I can't remember.
I think it was Junior.
Yeah.
Very honest. I think there's something changing once again. There's a shift. The shift that happened after the walk off of the of the Super Bowl. I think what you're seeing with this interview, with previous interviews as well. There's an authenticity and a genuineness about his honesty about himself, his own failings, and those kinds of things that we're seeing. There's a pivot that's taking place that I think is beneficial for Cam and beneficial for those who are engaging with his content and with him as an individual. It's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
Steve, what was your favorite moment of the interview?
Well, I would say, well, it's funny. They were about to let you go. And then Cam said, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about Stephen A. Smith. And then, Jason, I think about 3 minutes.
I'm hearing somebody's got something playing in the background. Who? Someone's got some Luka Dončić something. Anyway, keep going, Steve.
Yeah, and so I think 3 minutes into your answer, it's almost like Peggy and Cam said, "Oh, jeez, why did we ask him this?" The other thing was, Jason, I think you'll find interesting. I went to the comment section on his video. I think you'd be surprised how much support you got there. It was not just a Jason Whitlock, we hate him session. I actually believe a lot of people have more respect and support, if not total agreement, for your overall message. And people genuinely enjoyed the back and forth thing, but it wasn't just we hate Whitlock in the comments. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. I think it would actually surprise you. Now, look, there were some people, they said the normal things, but hey, that's to be expected. And I also wonder if he understood some of the work that you did, because again, if you guys do this again and make this a regular feature, I would love for you to talk about, hey, do you remember the time, or do you know about the time I was invited to Oprah Winfrey's show? Because I wrote a column about the 2007 All-Star game, and I called it Freaknik on steroids. And
that would be a mistelling of the story. It was Don Imus and nappy-headed hoes that got me invited on Oprah, but go ahead.
You're right.
Yeah.
But I think that article right there made you, in my view, I think like, wow, public enemy number one to a lot of people. And as I'm watching the spring break highlights the past week or so, I missed the wholesome fun and goodness of Freaknik. As I'm watching this, I'm thinking, I would actually go and just talk social issues. I would actually have a segment where you and Cam have 3 current events and say, hey, give our opinions. This is where my age and your age may differ, but do you actually agree on certain things? And the other question I have is, Jason, how was this set up? I'm curious.
They reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in coming on. I thought it was a hoax, so I gave them a one-word answer via email, sure. And that was it. And, wasn't 1,000% sure that it wasn't a hoax until, Cam popped up on camera, or I was sitting there talking to Peggy before Cam popped up, and I was like, oh, okay, this is actually happening, because I let Hadley do all the talking back and forth with him. But, yeah, they reached out to me, wanted it, and, I had no idea how it was going to go.
Jason,
yeah.
Jason, you better talk to JB, because he was on his show today going off about how he didn't get his shine. Nobody shouted him out. He's gonna call you and cuss you out. He's gonna call Cam and cuss him out. And so you got some heat coming. I'm just throwing up a for you.
Yeah,
JB's
Virgil,
got quite a imagination.
He brokered this. That's what he basically tried to say. I brokered this. I was like, what is he, Henry Kissinger?
Yeah,
My God.
He was claiming to be Henry Kissinger. He's like, man, y'all just need to call me Kissinger. Y'all just need to,
I'm surprised. They reached out like 2 weeks ago. How come JB didn't tell me it was coming down? But yeah, I'll hear from JB later today, and I'll let him tell me how he put this whole thing together. Look, Shemeka, I don't know what your favorite part was, but here was the most fascinating and disappointing part, because I really didn't get a chance to go into this. He made a passing comment that I wanted to respond to, but it seemed like sometimes he would say something and then Peggy would jump in with a question, and then so there would be so many questions that I wouldn't know what to answer. But he basically said he's basing his media career off of Snoop Dogg. And he argued that, Snoop gets to be himself, and look, he's on this and he's on that. And I really, it's only oversight that stopped me, because I would have liked to have leaned up in my chair and said, now, you do know Snoop Dogg is a satanic figure, and that is not a child of God. That is a child of Satan. And if you want to go in depth on this, we've actually been talking about this the last 2 weeks in our Bible study, Virgil. Anthony brought it up, and then someone else, Timothy the Karen, in our Bible study brought it up. Like, not everybody's a child of God. Some people are the children of Satan. And I would have liked to have explained to him, like, no, Snoop Dogg's a child of Satan. And if you want to, and Satan has his rewards. And if those are the rewards you're pursuing, weed, sex, unlimited money, and maybe those are what you're pursuing, Satan's got a truckload of that to give you. But that to me was that was the miss. I wanted to respond to that and didn't. And it was just kind of disappointing, because I think Cam's not the only one that's looking at Snoop Dogg and saying, man, he can smoke all that weed, be that kind of a criminal, be that kind of degenerate, and the whole world's bending over for him. Why shouldn't I do it?
Yeah, I think that was a missed opportunity as well, because I was thinking when he said it, you do realize Snoop Dogg has had to bend over to actually be that person. I mean, he's on stage rapping at some whack concert with his nuts on some other man's tonsils. He said that himself. So it was frustrating for me to hear him even compare himself or say, I want to be like Snoop Dogg, when we just recently watched Snoop Dogg kiss the ring of the Alphabet Mafia. You do not want to be the person that has to bend over to the LGBTQIA, and the P is silent. You don't want to have to do that. So that was frustrating for me. It wasn't necessarily my favorite part, but it was the moment where I was kind of yelling at the screen, because I was thinking, no one wants to be like Snoop Dogg. Maybe in the 90s, 93, 94, not now, because we've seen exactly what he's had to do to be who he is. One of the things I was wondering, though, Jason, was how you felt when Cam said we all have the same struggles, because that was the part too where I was yelling at the screen, because I was thinking, this man is over 6 feet. He's athletic. He has this talent. We don't all have the same struggles. Most men are more like handyman than Superman. Yet he was trying to act as if,
I got a better one. They're more like Bookman than Superman.
Right. And I was just so frustrated with that part. And I know that he was trying to be sincere and genuine, but it took me back again to just say, I don't think Cam really know who he is or what he is capable of or was capable of. Like, just trying to fit in has just not served him well.
I'm going to give him some grace on that. He's basically saying what all of social media says, what all of mainstream media says, that, hey, black people are all alike and we all share the same struggle, and that's why we're all on the same team. And I'm the first person probably ever in his life that was like, man, that's some BS. Me, you, and Peggy, we don't look alike. Our struggles aren't the same. I gave him a humorous example. I was like, me and Cam walk into a nightclub, you think we got the same struggle, or you think it's a little bit easier for Cam? And I was just like, and eventually he kind of folded up and was like, well, we do have Thanksgiving dinner in common, and because it's the first time he's been challenged and made to think about that. That's what everybody says. Dre, I want to ask you this, and just because you're a former athlete, and this has always frustrated me for a solid 20 years, like the athletes decided, hey, being an athlete isn't good enough. I'd really rather be a rapper. And so I'm going to start dressing like a rapper. I'm going to start wearing my hair like a rapper. I'm going to get tatted up like a rapper. I'm going to talk like a rapper. I've never seen anything. Athletes have been the pinnacle, from Jackie Robinson to Muhammad Ali, and we've all thrown that off to make ourselves seem more like Jay-Z than Muhammad Ali or Michael Jordan or Joe Montana. It's crazy to me. You were an athlete for a long time. Did you feel that pull?
No, because I can't rap. So I have no musical talent. And at the same time, though, my father's a musician. He's big into music. He listened to rap. He was listening to Public Enemy every day in the 1980s. I know the words to every song. But at the same time, I had athletic gifts, so I went to the sports thing. But to answer to your point, it was around the mid-'90s. This is around the time rap music became very popular in mainstream culture. This is around the time we get Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson looked like a rapper, but he played like a basketball player. And Allen Iverson was very popular and very good. That was hugely influential on the sports scene, not just basketball players, but especially black athletes of every sport. And it's just gotten bigger because hip hop got bigger. It got more popular. The artists became more commercially and financially successful. And the athletes are looking at these rappers like, hey, these guys are making money. We have a set contract, but these guys can make bigger money. They put out a good album or do a tour. They can make bigger money than even I'm making. And they can make it a little bit longer. Athletic careers are a little bit shorter, though I think the money's more stable. But with the hip hop artists, they were very popular. They got to be, quote unquote, street. A lot of athletes are black. A lot of athletes come from the inner city. They have the girls. They have the respect of other men. They rap about being tough and gangster. And a lot of black men grow up wanting to prove that they're tough and gangster. So there's a lot of parallels. And a lot of rappers want to be athletes. They can't play. And a lot of athletes want to be rappers. But it's always been that way. And I think it's still that way. It's fading a little bit because so much music is out there now. We don't have the few mainstream artists like we used to. You knew Biggie, you knew Tupac, and everybody knew who they were. Nowadays, you have rappers that nobody's even heard of, but they have a million fans. So it's a little bit different now because it's more watered down, but that's always been a thing. And the influence, as an athlete myself, the influence was always there, but I didn't go all the way that far in it. I also come from a 2-parent household.
Because obviously you're not a rapper and that's not your skill, but I have seen a lot of athletes who weren't rappers, but tried to present themselves the same type of attitude, same type of swagger. You never fell into that trap.
No, I did. I wore 5XL t-shirts in 2003 and baggy jeans, and we did all that stuff. We listened to all the music. We knew who they were. We had it in our cars, and we carried ourselves with the same dress style that you saw on 50 Cent and Jay-Z. Me and my friends were wearing that at the same time that those guys were popular. But at the same time, there was a line that we didn't cross, that we knew, okay, I can listen to 50 Cent, but I'm not going to go try to live out what he says, because that stuff will get you dead or incarcerated if you do what he's saying in the music. I had some teammates who didn't have the same upbringing as me. They wanted to live it out because they believed it to be true. I could separate the entertainment from the reality. So it depends on your background, where you're coming from. It's not really so much about whether you play a sport or not.
Dre, thank you so much. I want to give Virgil, you got a final thought you want to squeeze in?
Yeah, I thought what Dre said was so critically important. Earlier in the conversation, you and Cam and you were talking about people that look like me and people that look like us. I think more times than not, if we're always doing that, black folks in particular are reduced to only a handful of lanes, right? We're reduced to this lane that's hip hop or we're reduced to this lane that's sports, and now the blend of those two things are difficult to figure out what's actually what. I mean, there's no space for a Bible bully, right? You're the only guy that's giving space for the Bible bully to come on and have conversations and engage. We've got to broaden that. We've got to see. I love the example that you gave of the white guy who was who was in journalism that you wanted to be like, because you saw excellence, and we've got to get back to that. We've got to get back to about a meritocracy, about excellence wherever we see it, recognizing that individuals who are in the image of God, they image God like I image God, and I need to get back to what that looks like and being the best at what that is. We need more of those.
Thank you all. Great job. Appreciate you helping me talk about this. I think, JB, next. Do you guys help each other out?
No, since we've been in the league, it's hard, it's so, for the longest, we were never in the same league. I was at Xavier, he was either at Akron or he's at Illinois, Ohio, and so, we would try to help each other constantly with just, X's and O's and different things. And now we're in the same league. It's just so unique, and I want to see him do really well. Other than when he plays the Red Hawks, right? Other than when he plays Miami. But it's probably hardest on our mom. Jason, like that, she takes it really hard. Even like this year, we beat them in the regular season in January. You win, but then it kind of feels a little half empty after the game. Because I love him so much. I want him to do, like I said, listen, we're playing to win when we're in that game. That's for darn sure. But at the same time, man, I cheer for him. I want to see him do really, really well.
All right, I know it's a long show today, but I had to save some room for Coach JB to close us out on this Friday afternoon before we get into the weekend. JB is out on his boat enjoying the California sunshine. JB, I've just been told, I was just told by these guys, I think was it Virgil that was saying, JB, you're taking credit for my Cam Newton interview. Please explain.
Well, I just told Cam, you're not such a slapdick after all. You're a good dude, and grown men, have conversations. So go ahead and have one.
So you advised Cam to have me on his show. That's your contention?
I mean, I did recruit Cam. I mean, we have shared a little bit of, we've he's been on my show. I know Cam pretty well. I mean, yeah, he's a good dude. I like Cam. I was always told of Cam. I told Steve Kim, you're catching a little bit of heat. But I told Cam, you butted in on the Joy Taylor thing. You didn't have to say nothing. It wasn't Jason's fault. He came at you after you went at him over Joy Taylor. So stop simping. And you guys grow up together. It's cool. Grown men have great conversations, and disagreements create greater conversations. So I told him a long time ago about you and Steve Kim, and we've had talks about it. So it is what it is.
Cam did an excellent job during the interview.
Great.
That's Cam is authentic, and that's whether I agree or disagree with him. As long as the guy's authentic and honest, I got no problem with him. I thought it was fantastic.
Break it down. How did it come to fruition? Tell me. I'm confused. So how did it all work out?
Cam's people sent me an email asking if I would come on the show, and I was like, oh, this has got to be some sort of hoax. So let me give them a one-word answer. I'm not writing anything that could come back to. And so I just wrote sure. And then they circled back with another email, and I copied John Hadley, and I told Hadley, put this together. I'm not jumping into any of the communications because, this feels a little hoaxy to me. And so Hadley set it up, and I showed up. And, sat in front of my camera here on my set and didn't think, is this really going to happen? Is this for real? I didn't know it until Cam popped up on camera, and I was like, oh, man, this is like the real deal. It is Cam Newton, and we're going to do this. And so it's a very respectful conversation both ways. I left with more respect for Cam than I came in with, and that's not saying that I had no respect for Cam at the beginning, because I did. I think Cam's talented. I think that Cam, as a broadcaster, has a lot of upside. There's just some adjustments, some tweaks I think he should make. I like Cam as a football player. I think that he could have been one of the greatest quarterbacks, if not the greatest quarterback of all time, if he had just done a few things different. And so, we talked about that. We talked about Stephen A. Smith. You haven't taken the time to watch it yet, JB?
I have. I heard you call him gay. I love that part the most. I clipped it. I'm gonna put it on my show. Yeah, I loved all those parts. I loved all that stuff. It was great. That was about an hour of banter.
About an hour and 20 minutes. Minutes. It was
man.
good.
That's what America used to be, man. When we used to be able to have differences and talk. I thought it was genuine, and it made me reminisce a little bit. That was great stuff, man. I kudos to both you guys.
I'm looking forward to re-engaging with Cam. I told him that love to have him come to Nashville. If I get him to come to Nashville, I'll invite you out and see if you would you be willing to come to Nashville to sit down with me and Cam?
I don't fly Spirit, and I don't. I mean, I'll stay on the boat.
You think Spirit's the only airline that flies to Nashville?
Yeah, I don't fly no more because I'll end up choke slamming somebody that tells me to put a mask on or some stupidness. I'm not gonna fly, Jason. I'll drive there. But you guys should come out here on the yacht. You know what I mean? Watching games on the water.
Are you sure that's a yacht, JB, and not a boat?
Yeah, it's a yacht, man. What do you mean? It's 37 feet. That's 35 is a yacht. Well, you know what? I'm tired of people questioning the yacht. You know what this said? What does this say? Can you read it, Jason, for the audience?
Yeah. That's great. You put a yacht certification.
No, I didn't. That's riveted in, Jason. Don't start acting as if I put it on ChatGTP or something. I put more money in this thing than.
Hold on. Who's the people from Gilligan's Island? Professor Ann, Mary Ann,
yeah.
Andy. Who's the Thurston Howell? Are you Thurston Howell the third? Luke don't even know who Thurston Howell the third is.
No, shoot. I'm not that. He was more like he visited, I think, the other island, Epstein, but no, I stayed away from that guy. I'm not that guy. I don't want to get those vibes. So we're just hanging out, Jason. You know what I mean? I'm in Trump land too, man. This is a red state now. The liberal media won't tell you guys that, but this is a red state.
California is a red state.
California is a red state, yes, and they don't want to let you know that. But I just want to show you. Look at this house right here with the Trump flag. Make California great, make America great, and 3 American flags. Look at that.
Oh, I see that. Why is your boat docked? How come you're not out in the water?
So I had to come out here early right after my show, get out here early because I had a mechanic show up to do some stuff to my sound system because I got crazy sound system on here. And there was some issues. And then, of course, I have my flags.
Now,
and
you're
so
not
I had to
out there playing
here.
rap music, are you? You're not out there torturing your other...
No. Today was today right now I'm about to go out, take a trip up to Laguna Beach. Couple little couple females. So yeah, that's what I do. No Smitty, no Steve Kim. Steve Kim's scared. He was so scared on the boat. I had him and Marcellus Wiley out here, and he was just he looked like Asian. So,
all right, you're going into day 2 of the NCAA tournament. I saw you yesterday bragging about all the picks you got right. Go ahead and pat yourself on the back. Although I would love to see your bracket. Did you publish your bracket anywhere where we could actually track to make sure?
I picked them live on the show. I mean, the world's already seen it. I mean, I picked them live. So I picked High Point live. I picked TCU live. I picked Texas to beat BYU live. I even said Siena would play Duke good. I didn't think they would actually try to win the game. That was crazy. But Yeah, I'm on fire right now, Jason. So anytime you need some help, just call me. Just call me. Just shout it out when you want to. You need help. I'll help you. And your picks were atrocious, and I would have
They
helped
were.
you.
They
And
were.
I told you, BYU lost 6 of 9 or something going into the stretch. Whatever, 6 of 15, whatever they did. Who would pick BYU to beat Texas?
They got this Dybantsa kid that scored like 30 some odd points. I mean,
it don't matter. They lost. He's in Cancun today. And guess what? Who else? Oh, I'm on fire right now. I'm gonna tell you right now. And Kansas or Duke is in the hardest bracket of all time, I would argue. I'm talking St. John, UConn, UCLA, who's playing well right now, who I picked to beat UConn in the second round. So stay tuned for those games. My picks are just hitting right now, Jason. I'm at an all-time high. I could just feel it. The 4 number ones will not play each other again. This is the most watered-down era of sport in history of our mankind, and you're seeing a watered-down product. So hopefully we'll see some good games because everybody's so mediocre. And I know you love mediocrity because it's your new excellence, because Fernando Mendoza is absolutely horrific and you think he's the next Joe Montana. So,
no,
I mean, that's what it is. I mean, this is just the United States has died when it comes to sports. I tried to tell you guys this for a long time. And, I mean, we just lost to Venezuela. It's funny how you free somebody, right? You free a country and then they win. How ironic. But, hey, it is what it is, man. I'm rolling right now. So if you want some picks today, text me and I'll shoot them to you so you don't look foolish on your show next week. Go ahead.
JB, on that note, I'm going to let you get on to your Friday, and I'm going to get on to my Friday. I will text you for some picks. I could use a little help. If you got anything against the spread, send me a little help. JB, enjoy your weekend. Those of you that have joined me on Fearless, enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next week.